Revelation 2454. From the 22nd of August 1942. Most basic way of life in the coming time. The individual person's fate. The coming time will bring a tremendous change of the existing living conditions, and people will be forced to lead a completely different life in the midst of disorder and dreadful chaos. For the forthcoming natural disaster will cause immense destruction, and it will take a long time until the former order can be restored again. Every person will have to content himself with the most basic way of life. He will be unable to lay any kind of claim to a comfortable life and be exposed to deprivations and tribulations which seem almost unbearable to him. And yet he will often ask himself the question of why he is subjected to this aggravated life, and be unable to give any other answer than that the state of his soul needs this test. And if he comes to this conclusion by himself, he will also try to adapt to the aggravated living conditions, and as compensation envisage an easier life in the beyond, in which case it will also become more bearable on earth. For he should come to the realization that everything that befalls people corresponds to God's eternal counsel. And then he will also have a compassionate heart for his fellow human being. He will help wherever it is feasible, and those who believe in God and are striving towards Him will mutually ease the adversity. For love dwells within them, and this helps to endure and overcome everything, because it provides the human being with strength from God, who is love itself. The human being's attitude towards their neighbor's hardship will determine how long he has to live in poverty and difficult living conditions on earth himself. He can improve these by being willing to help his neighbor, for then God will also provide him with the opportunity to put his will into action by giving to him what he needs himself, so that he can also share it with those who, like him, live in most wretched conditions and thus lead a tough existence. The individual person's intelligence will not be decisive, since it will not be able to accomplish much, because all previous living conditions will have changed, and only utmost patience and a willingness to make sacrifices will make life bearable amongst each other. For it depends on this which kind of fate God will bestow upon the individual to endure. God Himself is love, and this love does not want people's suffering but their happiness, except that this happiness cannot be granted to them as long as they themselves do not recognize that God is love. However, in order to learn to recognize Him, a heart has to become loving, and love generally awakens through great adversity and distress. And thus God has to send those upon humanity in order to fan the spark of love in every person's heart. And depending how he will then prove himself, he will also be considered on the part of the eternal deity. And so he can very quickly prepare a tolerable life for himself again if he also does everything on his part to ease his fellow human beings' adversity. And he will truly be offered enough opportunity to let his heart speak. He will be able to be lovingly active in many different ways. Spiritually as well as earthly demands will be made on him which he only needs to fulfill in order to also reduce his own hardship and make his life more bearable. Amen.